A brain surgeon I knew stayed in a marriage that was destroying her for 11 years. She could operate on a child's tumor at 3 a.m., but she couldn't leave a man who screamed at her every night. Why? The answer isn't what you think, and it explains why you might be doing the same thing right now. We assume intelligence is a kind of armor. We picture the genius dissecting clues with detached brilliance, or the physicist unraveling the universe's deepest secrets, and we assume that same mind, turned inward, would also choose well. It doesn't work that way. Intelligence is a tool, and like any tool, it does whatever you point it at. Point a sharp mind at a bad situation and it won't escape, it will build a more sophisticated cage. Take the sunk cost fallacy. The more you've invested time, money, emotional energy, the harder it gets to walk away, even when the math is screaming at you. Boardrooms pour billions into dying ventures because somebody can't bear to be the executive who admits the 7-year pivot was a mistake. The smarter you are, the more elaborate the spreadsheet you'll build to justify staying. Here's something I've watched personally. Growing up between cultures, the more educated someone is, the better they get at explaining why their bad situation is actually fine. They use longer words. They cite frameworks. They stack rationalizations like a defense lawyer. A friend with 2 master's degrees stayed in a job that was eating him alive for 4 years, and every time we talked he had a new reason it made sense. None of them were lies. None of them were the truth either. Then there's confirmation bias, the mind's quiet habit of seeking only the evidence that proves it was right all along. A historian fixates on a single interpretation and dismisses everything that contradicts it, even when the contradiction is sitting on the desk. Smart people aren't immune to this. They're worse at it. Their brains are faster at building the fortress. And underneath all of it sits the oldest fear we have, the fear of the unknown. The familiar pain is mapped. You know its shape. You know which moves trigger it and which don't. The unknown, leaving, starting over, being alone, being judged, has no map. So the brain, even a brilliant brain, often picks the pain it understands over the freedom it doesn't. For people who have built their whole identity on being the one who has it together, this gets even worse. Walking away starts to feel like a public confession of inadequacy. The orator who commands 1,000 people stammers in their own kitchen, because the cost of being seen as anything less than competent feels unsurvivable. So they stay. They optimize. They perform. And they tell themselves, with full intellectual conviction, that this is the rational choice. But cognitive biases are only half the story. The deeper architects of these decisions live in the emotional basement of the mind, where logic doesn't have keys. Start with attachment. We are a species that bonds hard. The pull to maintain a connection, even a corrosive one, is older than language. A devoted parent watches the damage land on their children and still keeps trying, not because they don't see it, but because the instinct to hold the family together is wired in below the level of decision. That isn't weakness. That's biology overriding analysis. Empathy plays its part too, and not always in the noble direction. Compassionate people project their own goodness onto others. They believe that with enough patience, enough love, the other person will eventually become who they keep promising to be. A therapist tries to fix a self-destructive partner using the same skills she uses on clients, except this time the client never showed up to the appointment. The cycle doesn't break because the person trying to break it keeps providing the glue. Guilt and obligation finish the job. The sense of duty to a partner, a parent, a boss, a name can chain a person more firmly than any contract. A loyal employee stays at a sinking company because his aging boss took a chance on him 15 years ago, and he genuinely believes leaving would be a betrayal. The chain is forged from his own conscience, which is exactly why no outsider can cut it. Then there's something most people don't want to hear about themselves: trauma reenactment. People who grew up in chaos are often unconsciously drawn back to chaos, because the chaos is what their nervous system recognizes as home. The survivor of a cold childhood keeps choosing emotionally absent partners, not consciously, but but because that flavor of pain is the one their wiring was built around. The familiar hurt feels safer than the unknown calm. I've seen this in people I love, and I'll be honest, for a long time I thought it was a choice, and judged them for it. It isn't a choice. It's a pattern that runs underneath choice. And finally, validation. Smart people often get stuck precisely because they're being praised. The brilliant artist stays at the prestigious but stifling institution because the applause is real, even if the work is dying. Approval is a drug. The dose has to keep coming, and walking away from the supply, even towards something better, can feel like withdrawal. So they stay where they're seen, even when being seen is killing what they came there to make. The good news, and there is good news, is that none of these traps are fixed. The same mind that builds the cage can take it apart. Step 1 is just naming the mechanism. You can't disarm a trap you can't see. The moment a person can say that's the sunk cost talking, or that's my attachment system, not my judgment, the spell starts to crack. Cognitive behavioral therapy is the most boring sounding tool that actually works. It teaches you to interrogate your own thoughts the way a good engineer debugs code, not with shame, just with curiosity. Is this true? What's the evidence? What would I tell a friend who said this to me? Most people, when they ask themselves the third question honestly, get an answer they've been avoiding for years. There's also a concept called radical acceptance. It doesn't mean you approve of the situation. It means you stop fighting the fact of it. The mountaineer caught in the blizzard who finally accepts the storm is real, stops wasting energy denying the storm and starts spending energy surviving it. A lot of people stay stuck for years because some part of them is still arguing with reality. The argument is exhausting. Acceptance is the first step that actually moves. Self-compassion matters more than people give it credit for. We were trained to be our own harshest critics, and most of us have a voice in our head that talks to us in a way we'd never tolerate from another person. That voice keeps us small. It keeps us ashamed. And shame is the glue that holds bad situations together, because if you believe you deserve the pain, you won't try to leave it. Speak to yourself the way you'd speak to a friend going through the same thing, and the math of leaving starts to look very different. Community matters too. Humans are not meant to figure this out alone. A trusted friend, a sibling, a therapist, a group, anyone who can hold up a clean mirror can show you what your own eyes have stopped being able to see. Isolation is the soil bad situations grow in. Connection is the thing that pulls them up by the roots. And the last piece is the hardest, the willingness to be uncomfortable. Real change always requires walking through a door you can't see the other side of. The fledgling bird leaves the nest without a guarantee. So does anyone leaving a bad job, a bad relationship, a bad city, a bad story they've been telling themselves. There is no version of freedom that doesn't pass through fear. The trick isn't to stop being afraid. It's to walk anyway. Smart people stay in bad situations not because they're stupid, but because the same mind that's brilliant at solving problems is also brilliant at justifying them. The way out isn't more intelligence. It's honesty, support, and the willingness to feel the discomfort of changing. If this hit something in you, subscribe to Chamedia. We tell the kind of stories that stay with you. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, send it to them. Sometimes the door opens when somebody else points to it.